Hello and welcome. You're watching Medically Speaking, and I am Meenakshi Utreti. India has recorded 2,47,000 new cases of COVID. This is a big jump in positivity rate. The positivity rate pan India has increased to 13%. Delhi, another story. Positivity rate touching almost 30%. Just a few days ago, we had state governments who were optimistic, perhaps rightly so, looking at the numbers, which were showing a downward trend. We were seeing, of course, the numbers decline in Maharashtra, and many were interpreting is that Omicron cases peaking. Is it too early to call it the end? I guess we all have been proven incorrect there. Omicron is ravaging the country. What should you do? What should be the FAQs? How do we protect ourselves against Omicron? Who should get tested? Who should not? Many questions on our viewers' mind. Many of them we've got through social media as well. We will be doing a public service telecast. Who better to explain to the viewers what they need to do than a panel of experts, top doctors, top medical minds of the country. I'd like to welcome all of you to our show, starting with Dr. Puneet Mishra. He is, of course, the Professor Community of Medicine at the All India Institute of Medical Science. We also have Professor Anil Arora. He is the HOD of the Gastro Department of the Gangaram Hospital. We have Dr. Vinny Kantru. She's a Senior Consultant, Respiratory Diseases, Critical Care in Indraprastha Apollo. We also have Dr. Ravi Shekhar Jha. He is the Additional Director and HOD of Pulmonology at the Fortis Hospitals. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to start with you, Professor Arora, since we are speaking about the rise in number of cases, sir. The states, Professor Arora, was saying a few days ago that, all right, just hold tight for a few days. You know, the cases are going to peak, then we're going to reduce restrictions. Do you see that the biggest fallacy, which many of us really are doing right now, is by interpreting COVID as mild, by expecting that the cases are going to peak in a few days and then we'll all be out in malls and parties and everything will be back to normal?
Yeah, thank you, Meenakshi, for having me on your show. I think we should always respect the enemy, howsoever big or small the enemy may be. Viruses do not behave and they do not try to toe the line which has been drawn by the human beings. We know a lot of people have not been still vaccinated and they are vulnerable to infection, coupled with the fact that Omicron has turned out to be a smarter virus which has escaped the immune system. So look at the data, what is happening in US, the most developed, medically developed economy in the world. 13 lakh cases in a day, of which 75% have been doubly vaccinated and 1/3 have been given a booster dose. So Omicron doesn't care about whether you have a double vaccination or you have a booster immunity. It wants to survive as much as you and me want to survive in this world given by the Mother Nature. So it is trying every bit to evade the immune system. So we should not lower our guard. We should not take it lightly, because if you look at the humongous number which is coming up in terms of positivity in India, look at daily 25% positivity. And mind you, Meenakshi should remember that majority of the people are not getting tested. So the total and actual number of the patients or the infected people in Delhi will be far outnumbering what has been given in the statistical jargon.
And sir, since you speak about what's happening in the United States, you know, Dr. Mishra, if you could come in here, sir, we could possibly see a large number of hospitalizations, sir, isn't it? And there is a real fear, would you agree with me or not, of the hospital system getting overwhelmed once again, considering we have a large number of HCW who already have been infected with coronavirus, sir, isn't it?
See, if we talk about the Omicron, we know the transmissibility is quite high, but so far in most part of the world, what we have seen that it is not that severe as was the Delta. So hospitalizations are less. If you see ICU admissions, oxygen support, all those things, they are less. The other thing with this virus is that it is infecting people very rapidly. And what we can say, I mean, in very less time, lot of people, they will get infected, whether they are vaccinated, whether they had infection previously or not. As you were talking about the United States, where a lot of people, they have got vaccine, and even then they got the infection. So infection would be there, but if it is not causing that much severity and that much hospital admission, then we should be, carefully watching and protecting those who require, or who may be getting the severe disease, like those who are immunocompromised, who are in old age, or who are having the comorbidities. So we should take the extra care for those people, and we should take all the precautions so that we can, check the expect. But at this stage, as a public health expert, what we can say that it is going to impact most of the individuals. The thing is, those who are vaccinated, probably they will not get the severe disease. So getting vaccine is important, because even if you have a comorbid condition or you are immunocompromised, but if you are vaccinated, the chances of getting severe disease would be less. The chances of mortality is less, and that's what we want.
Fairly, fair enough, sir. But as far as the US data is concerned, and Dr. Kanstru, when we analyze the US data, there are a large number of people. Yes, I agree with Dr. Mishra. We need to think of the comorbid, the elderly. But if you look at what's happening in the US, even if we see the hospitalization, a large number of people are under 60, and there are even children who are getting hospitalized. What really has been your experience like in the second wave, in the third wave, ma'am?
Right. Thank you for calling me here, Meenakshi. As you rightly said, there is data coming in from US where they say that the hospitalizations have increased. Now, this data for me also is baffling, because Omicron is actually replacing the Delta virus very fast. If you see, if the patients, by their characteristic features, by their symptoms, which we are seeing in the third wave, they are kind of milder symptoms, and everybody is getting fever for 1-2 days, which is abating on the third day itself. And this includes some of the patients who have certain previous risk factors, including cardiac diseases, as well as certain renal involvement. I have seen families who have refused hospitalization, saying that I'm okay, I don't feel unwell at the moment, and they did get better at home also. Now, for me, data coming in from US that they have increased hospitalizations is a little confusing, because I don't know whether these admissions are on account of the monoclonal antibody which we have to plan in a hospital setting. That is showing the increased number, because the high risk patients, they might need the monoclonal antibody initially in their disease. As well as children, they are getting increased number of child admissions also. Now, another thing which is the difference between Western population and ours is that we have a family structure where we have people available to care for us at our home. This is not true for the Western population. There are nuclear families, parents stay separately, their children are far away. So they might not be having the carers at home to take care of them, because they have a lot of medications which they have to take for their other diseases. At the moment in hospital also, we have people who are admitted, but more so due to their comorbidities. They can't take care of them, they have dementia, they can't express them. So these kind of people are admitted here with us. Yes.
Perhaps, of course, there is a geographical, demographic, and overall difference, and of course, the living style, population of US and India. So perhaps, drawing a parallel may not be very fruitful. But Dr. when we speak of the elderly, the comorbid, and the children, the teenagers have started getting vaccinated. We had Dr. Arora who had focused and spoken about the need of vaccination, and also on boosters, which has been emphasized by all. Would you say, sir, that now is the time that the government starts thinking of boosters for the younger population also, for those perhaps from 18 to 60 years of age, at least those who are comorbid or immunocompromised, considering they are the ones who have a higher chance of landing in the hospitals? Dr. Jha, can you...
So very right. So in my all those who have chance of progressing into... Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So all those who have comorbidity or who are elderly, they are the people who are more at risk of going to severe disease. So priorities should be like the way that all those who are chance of going to severe disease should be given booster dose in the beginning. And it is slightly premature to say booster dose is working or not, if it is right time to give booster doses to younger generation or not. Because younger generation, last wave also we had seen that they were not going to critical disease too early. Okay. So I think only elderly and those with comorbidity should be given booster dose at this moment, not for teenagers.
All right, that's a very interesting, take which you have, that perhaps we should think of. And Dr. Arora, What's your point of view on that? Perhaps instead of jabbing teenagers, we should have first jabbed the comorbid, the immunocompromised population?
Absolutely, Meenakshi. If you see in US alone, the only population, subpopulation, which has not been given even a single dose of vaccination is the kids between the age of 2 to 5 years. Short of that, everybody has been given vaccination, including 5 years and above. Now, with this rampaging Omicron wave, they are also planning to jab the younger population. But fact remains, if you are given a choice of vaccinating adult population and those with comorbidity, vis-a-vis children who by default have a good T cell response and good immune response and are unlikely to come down with severe illness, obviously the priority has to go to the unvaccinated adults as well as those who are having comorbidities. But I think India is a different country in the sense we have enough of doses. It's not that we do not have enough doses to inoculate everybody. But I think the government has done a good job of trying to stagger the need for boosters, starting with medical workers, frontline workers, then going on to the comorbid people. And they have also given the drive for vaccinating people from children from 15 to 18 years. I'm sure they are going to come down to younger children also.
Well, yes, I agree with you, sir, to a certain extent, if not fully, that yes, India has had a staggered approach and that has worked. You cannot have a panic situation where there could be a shortage of doses. Also, Dr. Mishra, recently we know that the government has changed its testing, quarantine, other guidelines. The idea we all understand to free up resources and to ensure the neediest get it. But how do you react to the government saying that not everyone needs to get tested? So if I develop symptoms, how do I even know if I have Omicron or not? If I'm to sit tight, am I to just assume that I have Omicron? How does that work, sir?
I think you asked a very good question and a very relevant question. The guidelines which Government of India and ICMR they have revised, it's a really welcome step and they have taken a really wonderful step. Why to test asymptomatic? I mean, why in the community setting? If you are symptomatic, you need testing, definitely you should be tested. But if you are asymptomatic, you are in community setting and going and testing a lot of people, why to waste the resources? I think this is a good step. And testing should be done for those who are symptomatic, or they need to be tested for some other reason like international travel or other reasons as given in the document which has been issued by the Government of India. In any case, in more than 80% of the individuals, it is either asymptomatic or very mild, infection. So wasting resources on testing people, unnecessarily is not going to yield any result. Same is for the contact tracing and other things. At this stage, if we go by the public health approach, either contact tracing and all those methods, they are not going to do, any wonders. Right now, the what we require is the mitigation strategy. I mean, those who are sick, they should be treated so that we can stop the death. For the prevention, the COVID appropriate behavior and vaccine should be promoted for those people who has not been vaccinated so far. And as Dr. Arora said, that those who are, either immunocompromised or at old age or with comorbidity should get the booster dose, and then children and other people as well in the coming time.
All right. So you spoke about two things, treatment and of course vaccination. But Dr. Kantru, we will be discussing, of course, these two aspects as well. But to focus first of all on the testing protocol, yes, I agree with Dr. Mishra that the move will offer a breathing space to the healthcare facilities, and that's understood. I can understand the pressure, which is there on all of you doctors. I wonder how you've been taken out, these 30 minutes to talk to me. But at the same time, ma'am, as a layman, if I get cold, if I get cough, and I'm not comorbid, I'm in my early 20s or 30s, what should I do? I don't know anyone who gets cold or cough these days and is not getting tested. Everyone, irrespective of the guidelines, the day you get a cold, even if you have a slight fever, you are going to get tested, and that is the way to isolate.
Right, Meenakshi. I would agree with Dr. Mishra by saying that asymptomatic do not need to be aggressively tested, because the prime reason is asymptomatic are unlikely to spread the disease as compared to the symptomatic people, because primarily the disease has to spread by air, if you are very close to a person. For that, you have to cough or at least sneeze to increase the number of viral particles into the air. So this step has been very well thought of, that those who are asymptomatic are unlikely to spread the disease as compared to symptomatic. Now, if you are 20, if you have cough and cold and you have fever also, in our daily practice, we have seen people who are symptomatic despite having 3 or 4 cases in the same family have tested negative. Now, the prime reason is most of the population is vaccinated, or they have had the disease in the past. So this changes the viral properties quite a lot, because people who have been vaccinated have their own immunity to get down the viral numbers to so less that they are not picked up by your viral swab. So this step is well thought of. But yes, if you are symptomatic, which even means a cough or cold, you have some kind of scratchy throat, that is symptomatic disease. That is not asymptomatic. Just because you have mild kind of symptoms cannot be labeled as asymptomatic. Now, this is primarily to take the load off your healthcare system and your testing also. Those who require testing should be given priority in place of people who are asymptomatic.
But as far as the testing, capacity is concerned, it's still below, of course, the mark of 2 million, ma'am. But Dr. Jha, since we are speaking of vaccination, as of course all of you are emphasizing on how vaccination not only protects ourselves, all of us against the disease severity, it also reduces death. When we speak of boosters, sir, would you say that now time has come to think of an upgradation, or should we think? Because we never know when the upgradation will happen. It could be, a few months or even a year or so, perhaps even more from now on. Should we speak of upgradation of the shot, or should we now first of all focus on giving a booster shot perhaps to the entire population as early as possible?
No, it's all about prioritizing. So, like I said earlier, priority should be to give booster dose only to those who are more at risk of going to severe disease. Now, vaccinating a huge population like India is a very, very big task. So initially, the focus should be only those should be vaccinated who are more at risk of going to severe disease, like those elderly and comorbid people. And then only we should think of giving booster dose to those who are younger population, because vaccination never prevents any.
Sorry to interrupt, sir, but what about upgradation? Do you think that there is a need to upgrade the vaccine, because we have these new variants of COVID which are emerging every few months?
So what we have seen in this current wave is that all those who are vaccinated are getting lesser infection. So that's, I feel that the current vaccination is working nicely. The current vaccination, the one with which India is vaccinated, is working nicely. I don't feel there is immediate need of vaccination. Yes, we can think later of mixing and matching for booster dosing, but not for routine vaccination. The vaccination that has been given so far is working very nicely.
Right, so mixing and matching of booster doses, that's something which we can think of later. Of course, a large number of teenage population has already been administered Covaxin, and I don't want to predict, but we don't know if we will have enough Covaxins or not, considering a very small population has got Covaxin. But sir, Dr. Mishra, because I want to touch on multiple points, and we're left with about 8 or 9 minutes for the program to close. You also spoke, sir, of, the treatment. As far as the treatment is concerned, sir, there seems to be some confusion on the treatment protocol as well. Mild cases, asymptomatic, yes, you isolate and treat it symptomatically. But what about, say, medicines like molnupiravir? Many side effects, but many doctors yet are still prescribing it. What would you say about this confusion? What should a person do? Of course, follow the doctor. There cannot be anything more than that. But what is your view on the confusion which is prevailing regarding the treatment of this disease?
See, what I would say here, those who are in the home isolation, they don't require much of medications except the paracetamol and some minor other things. As far as those who are hospitalized, the care should be it should be left for the treating physicians, because they know better what patient require what kind of treatment. So they should not be forced to use this medicine or other, because they are experts. They know. The pulmonologists, they know how to treat cases. And as the disease progresses, as the condition of one drug may be good for one patient, may not be good for other patients, right? Depending on their comorbid conditions, depending on their age, depending on other things. So it should be left on the clinicians, and we should not give any message to the public that you should take this drug on your own and it is going to treat you. So that is my point of view. I won't say that any specific drug should be taken by public on their own, and it should be left solely on the clinician who is treating them.
Well, absolutely. And so that's a point I'd like to also reiterate that nowhere on this program or even on the channel, we are trying to propagate any medicine or asking people to self-medicate. That's not an option. That's not even something one should think of. We have a panel of experts here to answer all the questions. And, Dr. Kanchru, since Dr. Mishra spoke specifically of pulmonologists, ma'am, there is a confusion, and I ask you this because a lot of people earlier, got remdesivir, and that's something which Dr. Arora and I had another discussion on earlier, that, there was remdesivir earlier, there was plasma therapy. So much of that has been rejected today. What is the course of action now, or are we still in the hit and trial mode?
Right, so we are not in the hit and trial mode. The virus is clearly showing us that those who are at home, they just require some kind of symptomatic treatment, which is through paracetamol and just having steam inhalation and gargling for the throat. So people are getting better with this kind of treatment, especially those who do not have any risk factors and they are less than 60 years of age. Now, molnupiravir has certain particular indications which has to be judged by your doctor by considering one or two risk factors which could push you towards the severe disease. Those who are more than 60 years of age, those who have cardiac diseases in the past, those who actually have suffered severe disease in the past with COVID-19, and then they have liver diseases, they have renal diseases. These are the strata of people where you have to make your judgment and prescribe molnupiravir, that too in a window within 5 days of onset of illness. Now, the data which has come up for molnupiravir is a very small data. The clinical trials carry their weight when the number of people which have been treated in the trial has been large. On this account, UK has already started a trial on molnupiravir, which has to be a large scale data. And the other thing, we have to compare between two people where we are not giving the drug to one particular group and we are giving the drug to another particular group. Now, this trial has started already in the United Kingdom. But here I would like to suggest that molnupiravir should never be taken on your own. You should always discuss with your pulmonologist whether this kind of treatment is needed or not. And there's no point in giving this particular drug after 5 days of symptom onset, because primarily this is an antiviral agent which needs to act on the viral replication, which happens most in the first 5 days of illness, where we have seen benefit mostly in people who are unvaccinated. Now, this trial was done on unvaccinated people. So these are the people where we are prescribing molnupiravir. Apart from that, in the reproductive age group particularly, we are actually avoiding this particular drug because there are some reports of certain changes which can happen if you become pregnant.
Right, ma'am, stay with us. I'm just going to take closing comments, of course, from the two other learned doctors who are there with us. Dr. Jha, since we're speaking of treatments, Dr. Kanchru, of course, in a very detailed manner explained when molnupiravir should be administered. Of course, no medicine, nobody should self-medicate. Obviously, everyone should go on the doctor's nurses and not try to treat the disease on their own. But sir, monoclonal antibodies, that's something also which I would like to just touch upon because there's a rush for monoclonal antibody. I'm not too sure if you have seen it, but I personally know of many people who are deliberately themselves going ahead, even if they have the mildest form of COVID, Omicron variant, they want to get the monoclonal antibody because it's considered some sort of panacea. But there are doubts about the same as well. What would you say about that, sir?
So basically, be it vaccine, be it medicine, be it antibody, the base of everything is that the patient should not go into from milder or moderate form to severe form. The monoclonal antibody that is available in India doesn't work against this Omicron variant. So there is no point in rushing for monoclonal antibody. The one which works against the current Omicron variant is not yet available in India. I don't feel, without any prescription, without genome sequencing, we should, give monoclonal antibody to any of the patients. Genome sequencing is a must. It works only against the earlier Delta and Delta Plus variant.
Okay, so you speak of genome sequencing, and Professor Rodo, my last question to you. Genome sequencing possible in India? I didn't want to touch upon it because I literally have 2 more minutes remaining. But genome sequencing, INSAGOG is about 28 labs. Most of the samples anyway have been going to Pune. Till date, we say that Omicron cases are 5,000 in India. What are these 2.5 lakh cases? It's just not possible. What do? You cannot wait for genome sequencing. Given really the hard press, how hard press our resources are, what would be your parting advice to the general public who's watching the show?
Yeah, you see, there are two other ways, Meenakshi, of trying to diagnose Omicron variant other than by doing genome sequencing, which is the final answer for everything. So one test is if you have in the RT-PCR, if you have a S gene which is missing, and then you have a dual test called SGTF in SGTF, that means S gene target failure test that will further confirm it. Final confirmation come by doing a genome sequencing, but that typically earliest you can get it done is in 5 days. But whatever tests have been done in Delhi till yesterday, 565 samples have been tested in Delhi, of which about 70% were because of the Omicron. You have 25,000, but only 565 have been tested. So the trend shows that majority of what we have in Delhi today is Omicron, not the Delta virus. If you look at the WHO data all over the world, 59% cases reported in the world today, which is to the tune of about 15 million till now, are because of the Omicron variant. There is no doubt it has replaced Delta in majority of the nations. Genome sequencing is not an easy job. It is a time-consuming test. If you have to base your decision, the only thing which is important and relevant is whether you can give monoclonal antibody. As Dr. Jha very rightly said, the one which is available from Roche does not act against the Omicron virus, and the one which is useful for Omicron virus, that is Sotrovimab from GSK, that is not available in India. So for the time being, unless you are sure it is Delta virus, there is no need of using monoclonal antibody in this subgroup of the patients.
All right. Thank you, sir, for shedding light, of course, on a plethora of topics. And thank you to all our experts, of course, from monoclonal antibodies to medication, to, of course, even prevention of the disease, vaccination. We've tried to touch upon as many, topics as we could in this public service broadcast. I hope this show has been as riveting for our viewers as it has been for me. Thank you all for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your views. Thank you, ma'am and sirs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.